So, instead of doing, like, a typical stupid Chainsaw Productions review of the Fire and Stone series where I go through each individual issue and make a video for each one, I decided that I was going to take every miniseries and do an overview of them, and then end with an overview of everything for the event. So yeah, I'm starting with Aliens because this is where you begin. So Aliens, Fire and Stone was actually the second one to come out. Prometheus, Fire and Stone #1 came out first. So we got number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just to start this, I really like these covers on these Aliens ones. I think they're really well done. I like the theme specifically of the first two and the fourth. The third shied away, and they did something a little different, which is ending up being looking like the cover of the trade that's coming out in May. So, yeah. In my opinion, so far, this is the best series out of all of this event, which is bad, because this is the first story in the chronological timeline. So, oh boy. So, Aliens Fire and Stone begins on the moon LV-426 when the aliens overrun the Hadley's Hope colony. And in case you don't know, that's what happens. It's essentially kind of a prequel to Aliens, but not really. So, a bunch of colonists managed to escape onto a shuttle, and they crashed on LV-223. Unfortunately, one of the main characters is a fucking coward douchebag, and he, instead of being left behind, he lets a bunch of aliens get in the cargo hold. So, yeah. That happens, and thus, when they crash land on LV-223, which is the moon from Prometheus that all the events happen in that movie, chaos happens, aliens escape and kill a bunch of the surviving colonists. The remaining colonists run into this jungle, which did not exist in Prometheus. And they are chased by the aliens, and then for months and months and months, I want to say this whole story takes place over like at least 6 months of them surviving out here. Our main character finds a little, for lack of a better term, a probe droid, or a little scanner droid that's been taking video of this planet for hundreds of years, since it was left behind in Prometheus. It's something that attaches it to that movie. And he kind of befriends it, and he goes insane, is what it's interpreted as. There's a lot of left to interpretation in this series, because it's just so brief. He starts talking to it, he names it Rover, and he discovers one of the space jockey's ships. He goes in there, he finds a bunch of space jockeys that are in cryosleep, or whatever their equivalent is. And he discovers the black goo. He discovers that the black goo is probably the reason that there's a jungle. Meanwhile, he's detaching himself from the rest of the survivors, because he's the only scientist out of all of them, and he wants to continue doing science stuff while everyone else is focused on survival. We end up with our survivors in 2 factions. Ones that just want to live off the land and hide from the aliens, and others, led by the guy who let the aliens into the ship, who want to go to the ship, because this is where all the aliens are based and coming from and nesting. They want to go and, what's the word? They want to kill all the aliens and turn on the distress signal so the company will pick them up. Which, if you are familiar with anything aliens, Wayland, if you're fucked, they won't do jack from shit. Unless one of you is like impregnated with a Xeno. No. So, months and months go by, and then an incident happens. And I'm going to get into spoiler territory here. You can skip to time code that's I'll put at the top of the screen where you get my overall review. In this, one guy falls into this lake with a Xeno, and they morph together, which happens in issue 3. No, it happens at the end of issue 2, my bad. And it's one of those things like, oh, I should have known they would get all Prometheus on here. For those of you who don't know, and haven't seen my Can Rants #1 on Star Wars, I referenced that I liked the video Cake Fart more than Prometheus because it made more sense and it was more entertaining. Prometheus, and I will get into this right now, I hate Prometheus. I consider it to be in like the top 5 most disappointing films of all time. Prometheus was a movie that was marketed as an Alien prequel, but then at the last minute, Ridley Scott, the director, said, no, it just happens in the same universe as Alien. Which, if you didn't hear that, which I happened to thankfully hear that, you would have just been thinking, oh, this is an Alien prequel, and realized it really wasn't. There's a lot of Alien fan service in it, and that's put in just for the fans who didn't catch the interview. And Prometheus is a terrible movie that makes no sense. So, going into this, I was a little sketchy, but Aliens came first in the chronological order, because I picked up all the issue 1s, read all the issue 1s, and realized I'll just wait for them to all come out, and I'll binge read them. Because the trades don't come out quick enough for me, so we get to this thing, and apparently, you're going to get my opinion here. The black goo's probably in the lake, and the black goo is the Deus Ex Machina of everything, and it will do anything it feels like, and so it fuses this guy and alien together, and it makes a weird mutated thing that they end up killing in the next issue, like, immediately. And just all sorts of weird black goo things happen near the end of this. Like, right around issue 3 is when this series just... It was going fine, it was entertaining, and then it drops into the weird, stupid Prometheusness that this event, unfortunately, I think is taking its toll on. So, yeah, it gets really, really dumb. Really, really quickly. And so eventually, the team of people who wanted to go to the alien nest, they all die, except for one falls in black goo and turns into a weird alien human thing that reminded me a lot of that thing at the end of Alien Resurrection. For those of you who don't know, which, if you're watching this, you probably have seen Alien Resurrection. In Alien Resurrection, the alien gives birth to this human alien thing that we're supposed to care about, and no one does because it's like put in at the last minute. It just looks dumb, it looks fake, and it looks stupid. Dumb and stupid are the same thing, but you get my idea. It reminds me of that. And then everyone dies except for the scientist. So in issue 4, it's just the scientist, the crazy-ass scientist, just been doing experiments with the black goo. And then he dies. That's about it. So that's Aliens Fire and Stone. Overall, I'll give you my opinion of the best issues. Number one is my favorite issue on account of the setup is just so good, and it was just intense. And number 2 comes in a really close second because that was entertaining and it was fun. And then 4 was just a decent, I'll call it, just one of those found footage movies. It reminded me of that, like one of those horror found footage movies where it just abruptly ends. It was enjoyable, but 3 was just weird. Just all this weird stuff happened. A lot of things that were kind of dumb happened. Yeah, so Aliens Fire and Stone gets 3 out of 5 stars. It's mediocre. I'll give it 3.5 because it's slightly entertaining. It's worth your time. I'd recommend picking up the trade though. Don't get these 350 single issues unless you're a true fan of the franchise like I am. So join me next time when I review Prometheus Fire and Stone. Have a nice day, people.